We've been here before, fighting the problems that fight back, because we see opportunities where others see obstacles. We're change makers and problem solvers, uniting over 1 million minds to address complex issues facing communities around the world, including yours. We're working together as partners and professionals, while making friendships that last a lifetime. We're Rotary, and there's no limit to what we can do.
Welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa, and good afternoon, everyone. We're so glad you're here. Why don't you take this moment to briefly turn to someone you don't know and greet them. Nine in the United States.
19 cities. I established the first group home in the United States. The first adolescent psychiatric hospital.
Okay, thank you. You're going to have a brief intro. I love all the chatter and the excitement in the room, so let's go ahead and segue that right into a great program. We have a fascinating speaker today, and we want to give him all the opportunities possible to speak. Our invocation today is by Brian Talkington. Song and Pledge is by DJ Morrow. Visitor Introductions by John Dellavedova. If I could have Brian now for our invocation.
Thank you, John. Please bow your heads. With our friends behind us, and no person beneath us, with the bonds of Rotary between us and our worries behind us, with our goals before us and no task beyond us, with a thirst for knowledge and a dream of a polio-free world, we are thankful for our Rotary friends and the meal we're about to share. Thank you and God bless.
Good afternoon. Please join me in God Bless America, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'd like to introduce the Rotarians with their guests, and we will hold our applause till everybody's been introduced, and then we'll give a large applause at the end. We have a whole bunch of them here, so hang on. Catherine DeCamp has brought John DeCamp, Carolyn DeCamp, Laurie Perlori, an exchange student, and Juliana Calori. That's almost as bad as my name. Okay, Laura Gully's with David Wagner. Arda Bullock is John Rain's guest with IMAX Corp. Mary Weddle is with Duff Weddle. Ryan O'White is a guest of Sergio Molina. Oh, I forgot to tell you to stand up. Let's try that again. Ryan O'White is with Sergio Molina. Are you still there? They must not be here. Okay. Walker Hansen is an IBA 2017 guest. Heather Radford is with Cox Communication, a guest of Sydney Marcellus. Alex Solokowski is with John Howland. Jerry Dillon has brought his wife, Denise Dillon, Daniel Westmoreland, Katie Batchelor, and Josh Batchelor, her grandson. And Kara Gay Neal has brought Judy Berry over there to the left. Let's give them a round of applause. And we have a visitor, Jennifer Patterson with Aim High Academy with 2017 IBA. Hi, Jennifer. And then Michelle Place has a table below me full of guests. Karen Franklin, wife of John Franklin. Reuben Gant, John Hope Reconciliation Center Educational Director. Alicia Latimer, Resource Coordinator for African American Studies. Alicia Latimer Clement, Greenwood Dawson Coordinator. Jamal Dyer, 1921 Race Riot Commemorative Coordinator. And Oklahoma State Senator Kevin Matthews. That's it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, John. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all the guests we have today, and also recognize our sponsors that have helped make this club strong and provide the funding and support they do in the community. Our first is James Adair with Claude Neon Federal, Forrest Cameron with Greater Tulsa Reporter Newspapers, Ed Monette with Monette and Associates, John O'Connor, Tom Clinda, Daniel Ketchum, all with Newton, O'Connor, Turner, and Ketchum. Let's give them a big round of applause. Also, last week I made a faux pas, and I want to correct that. The sponsor for United Way is actually Mark Graham. So thank you, Mark Graham, for your support as well. We encourage you to do business with your fellow Rotarians, so any chance you get, look them up and give them your business. In addition to all these sponsors, we also have those that help put on the program today, and their names are on the screen. And if you can give them a big round of applause. Now I'd like to call up Barney James with our very newest member for the Rotary Club of Tulsa. And while they're making their way up, John Nabar, once again, thank you very much for your orientation.
Oh, sorry. John, can you hand me that stuff? I'm a rookie. I forgot. Sorry about that. It is an honor to introduce Peter Jensen to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. He's a graduate of Jenks High School. He went to the University of Tulsa. He's married to Lindsay, and they've been married for over 10 years. They have a 3-year-old son, Franklin. And Franklin is a Deadhead. He's been to his first Grateful Dead concert, so. They have one more on the way they're expecting in August. He is currently the Vice President of Sales for U.S. Sign and Screen Printing. When he's not active with children and work, he's a member of Leadership Toastmasters and a licensed, insured drone operator. So if anybody needs videography or things done professionally, he can help you with that. And he was a former member of Southside. Please welcome Peter Jensen. All right. Here is your pen and your four-way test. Thank you. There you go.
Welcome very much, Peter. We know you're going to fit in great. We'll try to find you a host that isn't quite as cranky as Barney there, but he does a good job. Follow him around and you'll do well. I have a couple of announcements today. It's with a heavy heart that I let you know that George Hamilton, a longtime member, has passed away yesterday. So there are cards on your tables to extend your sympathies to that family and to his wife, Claudia. I just saw George, it seems like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Always appreciated him, and he always sat over there at that table, and I remember him from the early days of Shop with a Cop, and it's a great loss. There's also cards on your table for Doug Walker. Doug is finally turning the corner with his personal health, and now his wife, Penny, is having a lot of issues. So if you could also engage that family with your thoughts and prayers on the cards provided, we would appreciate that. Again, we're all Rotary family, so let your family know that you love them. We have some special guests today from Sequoia High School in Tahlequah. Bourbon Hamilton and his father, Bourbon Sr., are here from Tahlequah, along with a couple of guests, Brother Noah and Cousin Bryson. And I don't know if Jan or Mr. Bovard are here, but these are special guests because they're from the Tahlequah Club, and as you all know, we do Camp Enterprise, and there's a potential counselor and 2 potential Camp Enterprise attendees next year. So we appreciate you. Bourbon was just honored by the Tahlequah Club for his achievements in high school, so we're glad you're here today. Thank you for coming. We will go to no extents to promote the good works we do in the community, so thank you for coming. There is also, again this week, a copy of the 2017-18 budget on the table for your review. If you have any questions or clarification or concerns, please contact the Budget Committee. That would be mostly Matthew Bristow, Casey King, or Jerry Barrientos, and they'll fill you in on your questions. We will take a vote on this budget next week. Tonight at 5:30, in conjunction with our speaker, so this is a tag we're doing here, and I think it's really cool, but at 5:30, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee will participate in the Step on the Path to Reconciliation Walk. They will be meeting at the John Hope Franklin Park, that name sounds familiar, in honor of his father, at 5:30, and will walk to the Greenwood Cultural Center. Contact Michelle Place. She's up here at front if you have any other information that you need. 5:30 at Greenwood Cultural Center. I'm sorry, at John Hope Franklin Park, 5:30. Now I'd like to call forward our exchange student, Miss Laura, who's here with her mother. And I think this is the first time we've had an exchange family member come to our Rotary meeting. So this is really special that her mother is here. Juliana is her name, and of course, we know Laura as our current exchange student from France, Italy. No, I'm giving you a hard time because we hosted a young lady from Italy about 4 years ago. So she's going to give us her classification talk, so to say, for Rotary Exchange. So give her a round of applause.
Thank you, John. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Perolari, and I'm from Bergamo, Italy. And I don't know if the slides will show with some pictures. So this is where I'm from. This is my city. And it's situated in northern Italy. It's about an hour and a half from Milan. And it's a pretty small city, but it's really, really beautiful. And it's divided in the upper town, which is the picture on your left. and the downtown, which is the picture on the right. And it's a very beautiful city because it's really particular. It was built, the old city was built in about the 13th century by the Venice people. And it's very particular because it has some walls around the upper city that are really old and really characteristic. And the picture on the left, bottom left, it's a picture I took about a year ago from my backyard. So that's the view during winter. The next slide, please. This is my family, and you can see it's me with my 3 sisters. I have 3 older sisters. Their names are Elena is the oldest one, and she's attending the college in Milan. She's studying nutrition. And then there's Anna, who's attending the University of Economy in Bergamo, which is our city. And then Francesca, who is now studying in the Netherlands and was an exchange student about 3 years ago in Arizona. And of course, as you can see, we have 2 dogs, which are really, really sweet. And they're both girls. And I really miss them a lot. Okay, next slide. These are my 3 host families. As you know, every exchange student changes 3 host families during the year. And my first host family was the one on the left, Matt and Teresa Gowie. And they were my first host family, and they were the most amazing first host family someone could have, because they had a kid who went to Bishop Kelly, which is the school I attended. So that would make it really easy for me, because he helped me a lot. And I remember every morning, whenever I was a little bit late, he would scream at me to run because we would have been late. So that helped a lot. Then my second host family was Chuck Clinton's host family, and I really, really love them because as I showed you, I'm the youngest one of 4 girls. So having 4 little siblings was just an amazing experience. And I might say that it was so loud, and so everything was just so happy that I think I never missed home that much, thanks to them, because they made me always feel like I was home. And then my third host family, of course, Catherine, the Camp family. And I'm still living my experience with them, and I'm still really enjoying them. Also because, honestly, Caroline is doing everything with the chickens, so I don't really have to get my hands dirty. And the next slide, please. So these are most of my friends, and my friends have been I think the most important thing during my exchange, because they were there for me whenever I actually needed them, and they left me my space whenever they thought that I could do it on my own. And so I think that Bishop Kelly is a really great school, and the fact that they're so outgoing people, it helped me a lot because they're really sweet, and no matter where you're from or how you look like, they'll always try to talk to you and be friends with you. So I attended Bishop Kelly High School, and it's a really amazing school. Although it's really different from my school in Italy because I attend a public school and Bishop Kelly is private, and they have a really nice dress code that I'm not quite used to, because in Italy we can wear whatever we want. So that was really interesting for me. but I really, really liked it. It's an amazing school. And the next slide, please. And I really want to thank Michelle Place for the internship that she gave me. And for my school in Italy, I have to do some service hours, and I did 40 of mine at the Historical Society and Museum, which was really, really interesting for me. So thank you, Michelle. And the next slide, please. My other best friendships are the ones with the other exchange students, because they're living exactly what I was living, and whenever I met them, in just a couple days, they became one of the most good friends that I've ever had. And in fact, some of them are the reason why I am gonna go on the USA tour, which is at the end of the exchange, and it's a month-long tour all around the US, of course, with some of the exchange students. And I really want to thank all of you for the opportunity of attending SCRI, RILA, and Camp Enterprise, because also through those camps, I've been able to meet some new people that are not just from my school, and I've been able to meet some other exchange students who have become one of my greatest friends. So thank you. The next slide, please. Also, with my families, I visited a lot of places. The first place I visited was Crested Butte, Colorado, and it was amazing. I really loved it. I'm from north of Italy, so I'm really used to the mountains, and I'd say that Oklahoma is not quite as home. But Crested Butte was simply beautiful. And then for Christmas, I went to Washington, D.C., and we visited the city, and that was amazing too. And then for spring break, we went to Hot Spring, Arkansas, which was really amazing too. The next slide, please. So I really, really want to thank you all for the experience that I've been able to have thanks to you, because it's been the most beautiful year of my life so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. And you know, there was a time that I was asked to kind of do interview style because she was a little bit shy about giving her presentation, and I thought she knocked it out of the park. So good job, Laura. You know, I invited a guest today, Arda, and he's sitting over here, and it's a funny thing. I was telling him, you want to come to Rotary, and then finally, oh, I'm sorry, do you even know what Rotary is? And he said, sure, I'm dating an exchange student. So you never know the connections that Rotary out in the world can make and the impressions they can make on other people. And we're going to send Laura back, and her impression of America sounds like it's very, very positive, the people and the places, and certainly Rotary. And sometimes the host families are awesome too. But I know Catherine's done a great job. So very much love the support for youth exchange that we have in the club, and please continue to support that. We've hosted several, and it's been the time of our life as well. I know Trish is out right now touring Europe, bouncing between exchange kids. So she's going on a family tour overseas right now. So thank you for your support. When you see that budget line item, know that it's changing lives not only here but around the world. I'd like to call up Gene Martin now, and maybe Casey, I don't know, for an announcement for IBA.
27 days until IBA 2017, and we are so excited for the program we're going to have put together for that event. As you know, the Henry P. IBA Assistant Athlete Awards is the major fundraiser for the club's foundation. And with that money, we then disperse it out into the community. Well, we wanted to highlight 3 organizations today that we are going to be giving $8,000 to each of these at the event. So the first person I'm going to introduce today is no stranger to the club, as he was our 2012 Above and Beyond Rewards winner. and he's with the Oklahoma Firefighters Burn Camp, and Mr. Scotty Stokes.
All right, they told me I only have 30 minutes, so I'll try to get it done. No. Oklahoma Firefighters Burn Camp is a summer camp for children that have suffered major burn injuries, traumatic injuries, anything that causes major scarring and disfigurements that might make the child uncomfortable in everyday life. Sometimes kids can be cruel to other kids, and Burn Camp is an opportunity for them to get away from that and not be a part of that, that ordinary day-to-day life. They're the popular kid at camp. They get to kind of call the shots. They're buddied up on a one-to-one camper counselor ratio with firefighters, police officers, professionals, nurses, doctors, you name it. We've had them there as camp counselors, and we have about 65 kids each year that come from across the state. It's all free of charge. We're a 100% nonprofit organization. Nobody gets a dime. None of us make any money off the program. We're all volunteer from the top to the bottom. So, but with organizations like yours, many other organizations that donate money to us also that keep us afloat and keep us going. The 918 Fully Involved, the big event, firefighter versus police officers fights that they have each year. That's one of our largest sponsors. They step in and really have done a phenomenal job. But it's the smaller donations that come in, and I'm not saying yours is small by any means. But the $2,000 a year donations, your $100 donations here and there are the ones that really make a difference to us and make the program what it is. And we're working on our 19th year this year. Next year will be 20 years, and we're real excited to reach that landmark. So thank you.
Okay, the next person and organization is not a stranger to this club either, and that is Miss Jennifer Patterson with Aim High Academy.
Hello, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. So Aim High Academy is a faith-based gymnastics program that serves low-income kids and regular kids. And we're just really excited that we are going to be able to offer more scholarships for kids because we're going to be one of the beneficiaries of the Iowa Awards. It's really exciting to us. We lost one of our founding board members in February, Jerry Isaacs. Probably some of you know him. And his family set up the Jerry L. Isaacs Scholarship Fund. And so we had 2 anonymous donors that stepped up and said that they would pledge dollar for dollar $5,000 each if we could find a match for that. And so this is tremendous because we're up to $18,000 now in scholarships that we're going to be able to provide for low-income kids to be able to do the sport of gymnastics, dance, or ninja classes. So we're very, very thankful to be a beneficiary. Thank you so much.
Okay, and last but not least is another person who's not a stranger to this club, and his organization, while not a household name yet, is soon to be one, and that is Mr. Walker Hansen with Community Trust Champions.
August 9th of 2014, there was an altercation in Ferguson, Missouri, and it resulted in the fatal shooting of Michael Brown. And we all watched that for several nights on national television. In fact, the world watched it. 2 nights later, I got a call from your own Jerry Dillon, and we met that night in his living room, started with a prayer, and said, what can we do? Because we don't want to be sitting here watching when maybe there's some action we need to take. We surveyed the whole community for the next 4 months in a straw poll, got a lot of answers from different communities that weren't ours, but they were real, they were genuinely what people were feeling, and we felt out of our depth. And then we landed on a very simple, kind of deceivingly simple idea. We started with a pilot, getting junior high students together with police officers first, just communicating, talking, meeting one another, and they spent the rest of the day, it's a day-long program, where they did exercises and team-building efforts and a lot of games, and we learned something very special. We involved then Dr. Chan Hellman, the Applied Research Center, clinical researcher, psychologist out of OU Schusterman, studied our effort several more times, and learned that when trust is lost and when hope is lost, you can seed that idea and it will grow. And so we began with his help to prove that trust can grow through this program. So the grant that you all have awarded, thank you very much, will allow us to go into a problem school this next year and do something that hasn't been done, test the entire school, but select a certain number of students. We'll also test the teachers and the police officers involved. And this will add to the research, which we hope then maybe I can come back to you and have you challenge other Rotary clubs to do, which is to build back trust in our community, starting with these junior high students who, by the way, eventually become high schoolers, eventually become citizens, and maybe spread this idea of building trust and hope throughout our whole community through the program that we're developing. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm the sales pitch. We have a board, and by the way, Casey, it's 26 days, not 27. We lost one. We have a board, and we've been showing this since January 4, so you could see the tables that have been selling. Obviously, a lot of those tables on the outside that were less expensive. They're not inexpensive by any means. They're just less expensive. They filled up. As of this morning, we had 16 individual tickets. Now we have 13 because we sold 3 today. Individual tickets are $197. For those of you who itemize for charity, among other things, on your tax return, everything over $80. Everything over $80 is deductible. So if you buy a table and you buy an entire table, that's $960. Everything over $960 is deductible. A little math there, okay? Well, one of the things every IBA chair or co-chairs have faced is those gold tables, the ones that have celebrities. At the moment, we have some lonely celebrities coming to our event. For example, Lauren Chamberlain is our female recipient. Right now, we have Lauren and her guest at her table. We have Madeline Manning Mims and her guest at her table. There's no one else sitting there at the moment. So what we recognized is there are individuals who didn't want the challenge of paying $6,500 for a gold table or buying it and then going and finding friends to share it with. That's another part of the challenge. So we've broken those down to where you can buy 2 tickets or 4 tickets or 6 tickets and not be worried about buying the others. If you are like, Dale, I'm looking for you. If you're a Nebraska fan, you can sit right next to Mike Rozier because Mike Rozier is currently sitting with his guest and no one else. Now, we'll solve the problem as we get closer, even if we don't sell the seats. But you can sit next to any of these celebrities. Marcus Dupree's table, for example, there are 4 seats still available at Marcus Dupree's table. We can sell those 2 each or 4. That's the message, okay? Last but not least, we have 3 authors among the top 5 people. So Chris Lincoln is not an author, to my knowledge, and neither is Lauren Chamberlain. But the other 3 people are Shannon Miller, Chris Herron, and Justin Wren. We are purchasing 50 books of each of those, having them autographed, and what that means is we can't return them if they're autographed. If you take the price that you would pay for those books, add the tax and all that kind of stuff, we are charging just a little bit more than that for the autograph. Please don't tell the authors that their autograph wasn't worth that much, but it's another part of the fundraiser. So we have 50. We're taking orders. I have people today who walked up and signed up and were wanting to pay. I said, don't pay me today. Let me just take the order. But we are going to buy 50 autograph books from each of those 3. 26 days. A lot of work ahead of us. If you're on the committee, we will be meeting next Wednesday, the 7th, the 14th, the 21st. The message really needs to get beyond the Rotary Club. This is a phenomenal event this year, like all the others. People outside the club need to know about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. This should be a great IBA, and we really will tell our story at this IBA more than ever before. Right now, I'd like to introduce our return of the day, Jerry Dillon. Jerry is a man that most of us know, and a bio would not do Jerry justice. That would tell you kind of what he's done. To me, Jerry is about who he is. And a little bit about that is Jerry, over the years, has created 20 international nonprofit organizations and 9 domestic nonprofit organizations. And most of the time, they revolve around helping people. So Jerry has served Rotary in various capacities since he joined in 1978. And of all the things I'd like to tell you about Jerry, the one thing I want you to embrace and take away is, if you have not met this man, if you have not gone to lunch with this man, you have a void in your life. So reach out to him and help me welcome Jerry Dillon.
It is with a great privilege for me to introduce what I call my brother, John W. Franklin. My brother Wilton and John's father, John Hope Franklin, were dear friends. They both now are together enjoying the next life together. When you look at a grandfather, a great-grandfather, and a father, and a grandson, what we're seeing today is a remarkable history of legacy. 96 years ago in our city today is what is correctly called the dark night of the soul. Your city, my city that we love. During that day, clouds of smoke hovered just blocks from here. 12 private planes dropped bombs on his grandfather's law firm and other homes, over 1,000 homes and businesses, burned them to the ground. Hundreds of people were killed in our city. What happened here? Was your family here? Was your business here downtown? Where was your church? What was your response then? What is ours today? In regards to the resilience of the legacy of the Franklin family is remarkable. An example by which each of us who are great-grandfathers, grandfathers, and fathers should follow. His great-grandfather, 5 days after the burning of his law firm building, had a tent up doing practice law. What would you have done the night of the bombing? What would you have done the second night? What would you have done around where you were staying? Fortunately, John's father and mother were just about to move here in just a matter of days that week. So their lives were saved. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because our speaker today has carried on the legacy that I hope is a legacy not unlike what can happen in your life when great adversity happens, the dark night of the soul that every one of us at some times and many times in our lives experience. What do you do in response to it? Sets a pattern for your children, your grandchildren. So we have a gentleman here today and his beautiful wife, Karen, that have been friends for over 30 years, like family. John W. Franklin is now today under the auspices of one of the greatest organizations in the history of the United States called the Smithsonian. They have just recently built the 19th museum. And as it should be, finally, African American Museum. John serves in a leadership role there and travels around the world, caring about the issues of family, legacy. So we have today the privilege and the honor to have a gentleman who has resume that would be impressive to anyone who would read it. But most importantly, just in recent years, they found a 10-page typewritten document that his grandfather wrote. His name is Buck Colbert Franklin. I just received a photocopy of that hand-typed 10-page letter that he wrote 10 years following, at the time of the Depression. So my pride as a Tulsan is challenged. What am I going to do today? What's our club going to do in the next 4 or 5 years as we enter the 100th anniversary of this tragic massacre that occurred right here in the shadows of downtown Tulsa? So if you would, in honor and recognition of all those who lost their lives and their businesses, can we take just a moment and stand in silence? Thank you. John.
Thank you, Jerry. I had the pleasure of working with Jerry's oldest brother for a number of years at the Smithsonian Institution. Wilton Dillon introduced me to the Smithsonian, to my colleagues, and told me to go out and meet my colleagues, all 6,000 of them, and introduce them to each other because they worked in silos. People at Natural History didn't know the people at Air and Space. People at American History didn't know the people at the Portrait Gallery. And we brought the institution together. It's been my pleasure to work at the Smithsonian now for 30 years, this month, 30 years. And I've watched as forces around the institution, around the city, around the nation, clamored to create your newest museum, the National Museum of African American History and Culture. We opened in September of the past year, and we've already had 1.5 million visitors. Karen, my wife, and I come to Tulsa twice a year. I've been coming since I was 2. Karen has been coming with me since we attended the Sister Cities Conference in 1992, a year after we married. So we've been engaged with your city. And for the last 7 years, Paul Gardulo, my colleague who's a historian and curator, and I have come here to collect the evidence, the photographs, the oral histories, the documents from your institutions and families to tell the history of that 1921 massacre, the creation of Greenwood, its destruction, and rebirth as a story of American resilience. This museum benefited from your contributions, your financial contributions, because Congress gave us half of the $540 million. So give yourself a hand for helping contribute to the museum. The mission of the museum is to tell the history of the United States through the eyes of African Americans, through the African American perspective. It's led by our director, Lonnie Bunch. And its vision is to situate the African American story in an international context. It's to be a place of reconciliation and dialogue, so I'm glad that you're involved in the process of building trust, which is so essential. And we must know each other's history in order to build that trust. It's also to be a place of dialogue. It's to be a place where we understand the central role of African Americans in creating this nation. I begin my presentation with these maps of the world because we all assume most of the Africans are brought to the United States. But of the 12.5 million Africans brought here between 1500 and the 1860s, only 5% come to the United States. fewer than 500,000 come to the United States. More than 6 million go to Brazil, 1 million each to Jamaica, Haiti, and Cuba. 400,000 alone to the west coast of South America. So Africans have been in Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Chile since 1500. We don't learn this in our textbooks. We don't learn this in college. From West Africa alone, people are taken from the area of Senegal all the way to Congo, Angola, over those 400 years. And as you see, they're taken to every part of the Americas. They're taken across the Sahara into North Africa. They're taken from East Africa into the Middle East, into South Asia, into Southeast Asia over the last 1,500 to 2,000 years. Therefore, every country in this hemisphere has had a formal system of slavery and different dates of emancipation, beginning with Haiti, which frees itself in 1793, to Brazil, which is the last in the hemisphere to free its 6 million plus slaves in 1888. This is Washington, D.C. when it's plantations in the late 1700s. If you recall, our first capitals are New York and Philadelphia, and the decision is made in the 1790s to create this new federal city of Washington, D.C. But it's plantations, and these are the plantations and the names of the men and women who own these plantations in southern Maryland, which is to become Washington, D.C. In the center here, you see Jenkins Hill. I got to point in two directions. That becomes Capitol Hill. Goose or Tiber Creek, this river to the left of Jenkins Hill, becomes Constitution Avenue. And we built this new museum on Constitution Avenue, and the river flows under our building. So our first challenge was to build a slurry wall around this 5.5-acre site to keep the water out. So African Americans worked on the land where the museum is when it was plantations, before they build a Capitol, before they build a White House, before they build a Washington Monument, before they clear the lands to make the city of Washington. This is the 19th Museum of the Smithsonian. It's a George W. Bush project. Laura serves on our board. Our first money came from the Bush's campaign. They gave us $500,000. And Laura hosted fundraisers for us in Dallas and in Houston. Our single largest donor is Oprah Winfrey at $21 million. She's a member of our board. Our other $20 million gifts are from the Lilly Foundation and from a man named Frank Smith. I had not heard of him until he gave us the $20 million. We're the first green building on the mall. We're seeking LEED Gold certification. We expected 3 to 4 million visitors a year. We're on target for that. We serve 7,000 meals a day. We are led by a council chaired by Ken Chenault of American Express. He also led our capital campaign, and we had to match the $270 million from Congress. He more than exceeded that and raised $370 million. It's a very distinguished board that includes Willie Brown, the former mayor of San Francisco, Bob Johnson of BET, Lyndon Johnson Rice of Ebony, Quincy Jones, who produced our dedication ceremony, Sam Palmisano of IBM, Dick Parsons, General Colin Powell, former university presidents Ruth Simmons and Pat Swigert, and I already mentioned Oprah. We began in 2012, but this was the dream of our Civil War veterans. The African American Civil War veterans asked in 1915 for this museum to be created in Washington, D.C. It's a 400,000 square foot building, of which 80,000 square feet is exhibition space. This is the day of our groundbreaking in 2012. And we had 2 cameras to photograph the construction process. This is from the roof of a Commerce building. You see, we're in the northeast corner of the Washington Monument grounds. That's a 5.5-acre site. We go down 90 feet, and we have a camera at the top of the Washington Monument looking down into the construction site, and another one on the roof of American History immediately to the east. So we build this 90-foot deep hole full of the history galleries, the theater, the restaurant, special galleries, and then we begin building above ground. The elevator shafts are the support of the building, the staff, the freight, and the public elevator. To the outside of the building, we add these metal structures, which the workers call lightning bolts. And to those lightning bolts, we attached 3,600 mesh aluminum panels inspired by the work of our blacksmiths in Charleston and New Orleans. The building itself is shaped, inspired by a Nigerian architectural element, a veranda post with 3 notches. You'll see it later. This is the way the building looks now at twilight. I want to say it looks like a basket full of diamonds. We encourage communication even in the seating outside. You see those 2 U's face each other to encourage our visitors to talk to each other. And they talk to each other in line. They talk to each other at lunch. They talk to each other about what they've seen and what they've experienced. The next time you look at the White House, look to the left and you'll see our building nestled right there in proximity to the White House. This circular object here outside of the building is the top of a fountain in a space dedicated to my father's memory. It's called the Contemplative Court. Once you've gone through slavery, combated the Klan, segregation, and come up above the light, we want you to have a place to reflect and experience fellowship with your fellow visitors. Sorry. On our 4th floor, which is a cultural floor, we have the sculpture in the very center, which inspired the shape of the building. It's in a circular gallery with a 360-degree screen. We opened on September 24th, and these are some images from that dedication day. George Bush, who said it should be on the National Mall, spoke first and said, "It's here like I said it should be." President Obama spoke as well. John Lewis picked up the torch from the late Congressman Mickey Leland and introduced the legislation to sponsor the museum for many years before it actually occurred in 2003. Robert De Niro and who else spoke with him? Robert De Niro, Will Smith, and Oprah Winfrey all did spoken word presentations that day. Stevie Wonder was one of the musical guests. And I thought we'd be cutting a ribbon, but they decided we'd ring a bell. And so 4 generations of this family, the lady in the purple is 100 years old, rang the bell that officially opened the building. We have 5 floors below ground, 5 floors above ground, so when you come to Washington, please expect to spend more than 1 day in this building. The history galleries are divided between 1400 in West Africa through the end of slavery in 1865, Reconstruction to President Martin Luther King's assassination in 1968, and from the King's assassination to President Obama's inauguration in 2009. So there are 3 galleries. The 2nd floor is our learning floor with our classrooms, our Center for African American Visual Arts, many interactives that you see young people engaged with, our family history centers on the 2nd floor. The 3rd floor is about community. And we have our sports history, military history. And we look at 10 different communities. And one of those 10 communities is Tulsa. Wrapped around those 10 case studies are a history of African American organizations and institutions, activism, faith communities. And the 4th floor features a culture. That central gallery, that round gallery, is on the 4th floor, looking at cultural expressions. And off of those galleries are visual arts, music, our 2nd largest gallery, and a space called Taking the Stage, looking at theater, dance, comedy, television, and film. We have a World War II era Tuskegee Airman training plane. When you're working on a project like this, you have to tell everyone that you know what you're working on, because you don't know who has what. So a young white couple in Los Angeles were restoring this plane to be a crop duster. And when they looked up the registration number, they found out that it was a Stearman training plane used to train the Tuskegee Airmen in Alabama. When it was flight worthy, they flew it from LA to Tuskegee so some of the airmen could fly in it one last time. And then they flew it to Dulles Airport, which is where the Smithsonian receives all of our airplanes. This is the entrance to the community galleries on the 3rd floor. That's Muhammad Ali at the very end, I Shook Up the World. This is the Cultural Expressions Gallery, which was funded by American Express. When you come up out of the slave trade section, you're confronted with Thomas Jefferson, and behind him on the bricks, the names of the 600 people he owned during the course of his lifetime. He inherits 60 from his father and land, but he expands that to owning 600 people, none of whom he frees during his lifetime. Behind him are his words, the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal. And all along this back wall are all of the seminal documents of America, reminding us how our history is linked to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Emancipation Proclamation, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Here's your new building. It's stunning. Come and visit it. We began without a collection, and we had to start from scratch. We're the Smithsonian, so we have to have powerful images, powerful artifacts. One of the most famous women out of the slavery period is Harriet Tubman. We just drove through her hometown of Cambridge over the weekend. A colleague in Philadelphia inherited 39 objects that belonged to her, including the shawl that Queen Victoria gave her, her hymnal, her fork and knife, and images that no one had ever seen of her. We just purchased a new photograph of her with the Library of Congress of Harriet Tubman in her 40s, a previously unknown image. This is our largest artifact, a segregated rail car built in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and outfitted to become a Jim Crow car, half for whites, half for blacks, with different size facilities. We're a museum of history and culture, so we have a rich collection of art. This is by Charles Alston, Romar Bearden. In our sports gallery, we have a space dedicated to Muhammad Ali. This is Lena Horne, the famous actress and singer. Dizzy Gillespie. The late Chuck Berry's red Cadillac. Michael Jackson's fedora. We tried to buy the glove. It went for $750,000, and it's in a casino in Macau, China. So we go to Macau, go see the glove there. Louis Armstrong's trumpet. Wynton Marsalis asked to play it a couple of years ago for the installation of our new Secretary of the Smithsonian. When an artifact comes in a museum, you're not allowed to touch it anymore. Right, Michelle? So our collection people said to Wynton, "You want to play this? Can you play it with gloves?" Of course you don't play a trumpet with gloves unless it's really cold. So they let him play it, and as soon as he finished playing it, they snatched it out of his hands and they rubbed those fingerprints off of it and put it back in his case. Now that we're open, we have a number of initiatives because we're an operating and functioning institution now. And so we have a slave wrecks project. We are looking at slave shipwrecks around the world, in the Caribbean, in the North Sea. And thanks to the National Association of Black Scuba Divers, we located a slave ship off of Cape Town that had left Mozambique in 1794, headed for northern Brazil. And we have remnants of that ship in the museum. Thanks to the Lilly Foundation, we also are working on an initiative to help Black congregations document and digitize their collections, preserve their buildings for the next 5 years. It's a $10 million gift. We have passed 1.5 million people. We have 143 donors who've given $1 million and more. We're a major in all of the social platforms of social media. We're the first digital museum. And we end with my grandfather. This is Buck Colbert Franklin. Born in Hennepin, grew up in Pauls Valley, went to Dawes Academy, and because he couldn't go to the University of Oklahoma in 1899, he goes to Roger Williams University, where he meets my grandmother-to-be, Molly Parker, from Gedde, Mississippi. And while they're in college, they not only meet their mentor, John Hope, from who they will name their second son. My grandfather's first son was Buck Colbert Jr. But while they're away, petroleum is discovered. And of course, that leads to the growth of Tulsa and the commemoration that we're having today. These images were hidden in 10,000 glass slide negatives in the Tennessee State Archives. They're numbered, they're glass negatives, they're numbered on the back. And the archivist Googled the name B.C. Franklin to find out who this man on the right was. Gloves, hat, waistcoat, gold chain. And he found the name B.C. Franklin. And when he Googled B.C. Franklin, he found an image similar to the one on the left that we published in a book called Indivisible, Native and African American Lives in the Americas, because we were slaves to Chickasaw Indians we get here in the 1830s. And the family name is Birney. And when my great-grandfather, David Birney, goes off to fight in the Civil War on the Union forces side, he changes his name to David Franklin. So we've only been Franklin since the 1860s. But these images remind us to go back in all of our families' photographs. Do you know the names of the pictures, the people in the pictures in your family? That's why we need to talk to our relatives, our uncles, our aunts, our grandparents, so that we each know our own family legacies to pass it on to our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. So I leave that charge, I leave you with that charge to know your family's histories and share them with one another. Thank you.
Well, John, thank you very much for that presentation, and thank you very much for coming back to Tulsa to bless us with the story and also the Reconciliation Walk. We look forward to each of your 2 visits per year. Maybe you can come see us again. Thank you. Each week, in lieu of a speaker gift, we donate a book to our library at Celia Clinton Elementary. And today's book is Each Kindness. And if you could inscribe a note to the students there, I know they would really appreciate it. I'd like to call up Catherine DeCamp, Sergeant of Arms. I got it right almost in front of my wife. Catherine is here to levy good nature fines to raise money for our club foundation.
That's right. But first of all, I want to start out by saying, you know, both of our spouses are here. His wife, Kathy, and my husband, John. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
It's really weird.
Just wanted to throw that out there in case anybody was interested.
And we're all from?
Well, almost all of us are from Sapulpa. We've got that one outlier over there, the McLean graduate. And so, okay, so let's get on with the fines. Oh, okay. Do you want me to mime the fines this week? Yeah. Okay. Ray Tullius gave a very generous $250 donation for his birthday. Ray, where are you? I know he's here because he has a meeting today. I can't see a thing. But happy belated birthday, and thank you for that fine. And that's really the only fine that I have today. So this is a good time for me to remind you that there are only 4 more opportunities for you to donate during my Sergeant at Arms period. And so just wanted to point those out on the calendar. So 4 opportunities. If you missed your birthday or you missed your Rotary anniversary or something like that, you missed Christmas, it's not too late. Go ahead and send me that fine and I'll be happy to create a slide for you. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you so much. And no 50-50 today. That will be next week, so bring all your dollar bills next week.
Great. We have some great upcoming programs. On June the 7th is our club foundation celebration. We have a couple of surprises for you at that meeting, so don't miss it. On the 14th, Mimi Teresh, Women in Recovery. She's going to speak to us. Should be a great program. And on the 21st, Dino Lawley with Discover Oklahoma. So tell your friends about the upcoming programs, find something that they're interested in, and drag them here. We appreciate you, and tell everybody you meet today about the Reconciliation Walk. Look up these sponsors that we're going to honor for the IBA Awards, Walker and such, and have a great Rotary Day. We're adjourned.